Welcome back to the Coast to Coast Traders podcast. My name is Robbie.
And I'm Joe.
And we got a really good episode for you today. How are you doing today, Joe? It's good to see you.
Hey, it's good to see you too, Robbie. I'm doing good. Just trying to stay warm. It's really cold up here in Maine. I think it was only like 1 or 2 degrees when I got up this morning. So it's been pretty nippy up here, but we're surviving, man. We're surviving. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, but man, I'm like riled up, dude. You might have to hold me back, man, because we saw some stuff happening in the group this week, and it really sparked a passion in me. So I think we're just gonna get right into it, right?
Yeah, definitely, dude. Don't hold back. Let's hear it. I like the passion that you got and that you're bringing. So let's do it.
Yeah. So we're not gonna name names, of course, but pretty disturbing slash sad situation happened in our group where we had a trader that was blowing through some funded accounts, which is obviously pretty sad to hear because once you've achieved funding, it's different losing the combines versus the fundeds.
Yeah.
But in particular, this guy was going through. He'd already lost several on the day, I think, if I remember correctly. Anyway, and he mentioned something about one account. Was like it was on the verge, but he brought it back, and it was like $3,000. So it's like hell yeah, dude, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty awesome day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so next thing you know, I don't remember how much later it was. He posted it's like minus 6,000, and he blew the account, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How could you do that?
Yeah.
So,
and if I remember correctly too, I'm sorry to jump in, man, but wasn't this during Globex too? I feel like this was overnight.
Could be, but I was thinking it was actually during the day.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
I know he trades Globex, and that's one of his problems too. Is not, I guess, being consistent with when he trades, and he just wants to make money at all times a day.
Yeah. And
that could be another topic that we have too. But yeah, man, it's really sad to hear because you're up $3,000 on a day. When should he have cut it off? Obviously, that's different for everybody, but like, what would you have done?
Honestly,
especially having been red to green, right?
Yeah, and if you have like a red day, and this is why I think it was Globex, is I thought it was either Sunday night or Monday night. And I know if I look at the NQ chart, I'll remember the exact look, like roughly, because there was a big move, and I remember it occurring on a big move, and then him saying something like, the 2-minute candles were quite a bit bigger than he originally had thought. So let me see. I'm just looking at my phone. But, I think like personally, if I'm up, $3,000 on a single 50K account, then yeah, this was Monday night in Globex. We had this huge drop down after the inauguration. So Monday was just a partial day for futures. There was this huge move, and it's, it's a NASDAQ trade. Where it drops from about 21,700 all the way down to 400. So 300 point range put in pretty quickly. But on a 50K account, if I'm up 3K, like that's a fantastic day. And
absolutely,
the main objective with the prop accounts is to extract profits. It is literally to pay yourself. And TopStep doesn't have a consistency rule. So if I make oh my God, I can't speak. If I make $3,000 in a day, you better believe on one account, like it's locked, and I'm looking for, what am I doing, the next 4 days? Like if that's day one towards a payout, what am I doing the next 4? I'm going to strategize about like how I'm going to protect those profits in this account, because it's so much harder to come by the profits. And if I've made $3,000, you better believe I'm probably going to size down the next 4 days, take some conservative trades, try to pad it a little bit more, and then take a decent payout. And then, because even if, let's just say on a conservative basis here, people, if I just said, you know what, I had a fantastic day, maybe a little bit of luck was involved, but so be it, I'll take it, right? Yeah. Well, then why not just trade one con on NQ on a smart trade? Something where you think you can get 10 points, maybe you risk 15 to 20, which I know is a little bit of an obscure, heavier risk than reward, but just to give yourself some breathing room and not get kind of like cut up by all these like 10-point target trades. But just do something conservative, stack another $800 on this account. Now you've made $3,800. Regardless of what your balance was before, you've just secured a $1,900 payday. And then you have a $1,900 nest egg to continue to build off of. Right. So, and that's just one way of doing it. Everybody should do their own thing. And it's not financial advice, of course, but I would be cutting it off for sure. Sorry, long-winded answer, but I mean, what would you
No,
do?
absolutely. Yeah, I would do the same thing. Like especially red to green. I probably would have cut it off a hell of a lot earlier than that. Like, because I know he's had sizing issues,
Yeah.
and he mentioned this gambling strategy. I forget what it's called.
Martingale.
Martingale.
Yeah, the Martingale strategy, where you, I think you actually continue to
You
double
double
your
down.
bet. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we shouldn't be trading like we're gambling, and our colleague Diesel often kind of hates the futures prop trading space because people often trade like they're gambling, right?
Yeah.
And so if your trading behavior is so different when you're in prop, like he was already thinking of switching to a live account. Remember that?
Yeah, cash account. Yeah, he was asking about brokers and things to do, and I just thought, boy, at the rate you're burning through capital on prop, accounts, because obviously every funded account is $198, right? Because they're 50Ks on TopStep, is 49 for the eval, 149 to move to the funded stage, the express funded account. So 198. So at the rate he's blowing 198, if you put a few $1,000s into a cash account, like, whew, that is going to be, it's going to be a very painful day. And that's
And
gonna end
also
quickly.
the margin requirements are drastically different, right? Because if I remember correctly, it's 1,000 per NQ, but that's just to auto liquidate. You actually need 2,000 because you need 1,000 of buffer or drawdown, right?
Yeah,
So
and if you're not careful, if they have to auto liquidate you, they also charge you a fee. So they auto liquidate you, you experience that huge drawdown in your account, and then they're like, "Oh, by the way, because we had to auto liquidate you, you owe us a fee." Because we had to step in on your behalf and try to protect you. It's not good.
No, for sure. And on top of that, we don't know how many accounts. Well, I suppose he could be trading 5 accounts at a time, which is the max on TopStep. And if you're a serial account blower, or you have been serially blowing accounts, it's like, at what point do you sort of like try to rein yourself back in and stop the hemorrhaging?
Yeah, I think the most obvious advice is not copy trading, and not going full size, right? So
Absolutely.
if I remember correctly, he was already in profit too, enough to be able to take 5 contracts. So that's another thing that adds to that sort of strategy that I was saying, is that in order to take 5 contracts, he had to have profits over 2K. So if you're over 2K in profits and you just make 3K, if let's just say for, if he was right at 2K, with that profit day and then the next 4 days of minimal profits, you're at an account balance of $5,800. That's a $2,900 payday at the end of that week. Like, that's a good week, right? That is a very good week. Most Americans would kill for that. And even if that is the only payout you've taken from that account, you've turned 198 into 2,900. It's a fantastic rate of return. I think that, obviously he's a young individual, but I think that regardless of age, sex, gender, all that, everything, and it's just socioeconomic status, all of that, people blatantly disrespect the prop funding opportunity, right? It is a tremendous opportunity to turn a small bit of capital into substantial and repeating payouts. Even when TopStep, once you eclipse the $10,000 payout mark and that's not per account, that's total, the way TopStep is doing it currently at the time of this filming, right? Is, they're going to take 10%. So even if he was already at that, so it's 2,900 minus 290, right? So we're still talking over $2,600 at the end of the week. That's yours. Like, that's the thing with prop, is just secure the bag. Like, that's your job. Secure the bag. That's it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and then on top of that, we have other traders that are not only just blowing the fundeds, but they're blowing their combines, and they're overtrading the combines. They're doing the full copy trading all those accounts. And it's like, I feel like if you're going to be blowing through that many accounts, then you might be creating a scenario where you're like maybe even expecting to blow, and then you're just ready to drop the trigger or pull the trigger and just buy 5 more accounts, which is not setting yourself up for success.
No.
We want to be, if you have multiple accounts, that's another way of spreading the risk, right?
Yep.
So why not, only trade 2 of them or just 1 of them, right?
Right. And the other thing too is if you end up trading all 5 at the same time, if that's really what your heart desires, you can size down by just trading micros, right? Because
Sure.
let's say you trade micros, you trade 5 micros, and yeah, you would have to get a bigger move in order to get the $200 mark, right? But your risk is significantly less, and then you're able to hit that target. And if you hit that target, you didn't make $200, you just made 1,000, but it's spread out across 5 accounts. That might put your opportunity for payouts a little bit further, like spread out as you try to build up the account. But it's still a great opportunity, and like the risk reward is still substantially skewed in your favor. But everybody's looking to get into these prop accounts, right? And it's like, it's my first time driving, so let me take, the keys to the Ferrari and see how fast I can go. What do you think is going to happen, right?
Yeah, like, you're going to get wrecked. And he did.
You're going to get wrecked. You're going to get wrecked like when Elon Musk he wrecked his McLaren and then laughed about it because he had no insurance on it. Oh
my gosh, I hadn't heard about that.
Oh, dude, that was a long time ago for Musk. Somebody could fact check me on it, but I feel like it's like pushing 20 years ago before Tesla was like even a thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, he had bought a McLaren and then ended up like, going too fast and totaling it. So. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, well, thank God that nothing bad happened to him, right? Because that could have been terrible. But back to traders, I mean, it's easy. It's really easy to do that. And I can speak from, personal experience. Like, it's so easy to identify the road that somebody's barreling down, because I've kind of been down that road before, like where I'm tilted and I blow an evaluation account and I'm just like, what the F? And then it's like, boom, I've blown another one within the same day. More. Yep. And then it's like, oh my God, now I've blown 2. And then, you get to that sort of like, it's just, you start to spiral and it's like, all right, I'm going to go buy 2 more. And then you copy trade them. And then it's just like, all right, I just blew 2 more. And it's like, okay, hold up. I just blew 4 eval accounts today. Like, what am I doing? Yeah. But if you can't recognize it, you're screwed.
And that could be in the course, literally $200 in minutes, right? If you're copy trading full size, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, and TopStep is incredibly dangerous in that regard, because if I signed up for a combine right now, it's ready like in seconds. Like their refresh rate and like on approving and just like setting up an account is so quick. And it's it's also a mental thing, right? What's that's like the dopamine hit. Yeah,
sure.
So it's like, and then even though you've blown like 4 eval accounts, you pass one or you get halfway, because you have to do it in 2 days on TopStep, right? So so you make the 1,500 in one trade and you're like, all right, yeah, and it's like you feel like, how could you feel good about that? You just blew 4 or whatever,
Yeah, what's that? What's that thing you always say about the slashing tires when you mess up?
Oh,
this is a good one, and I think it like applies heavy here.
Yeah, it's not mine. It's from Trader Dante, who, if you guys aren't familiar with him, you have to check him out. I love listening to that guy's stories. I think he's fascinating and fantastic trader. He would be fantastic to have on one day if we ever make it to that point, bro.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But he says basically, like, experiencing a loss or having a really bad day is like getting a flat tire. He's like, you don't get out and then slash the other 3. It's like I think he finishes it with like, don't be a C word. So, but he's British, and like British people, they just toss that word around. It's so taboo in America, so I'm not going to say it.
Oh, but, interesting.
But for Brits, it's like, yeah, we say that,
Well, if it's a rental car, maybe you do go slash out of the other 3 tires.
Yeah, only.
Because if that's how you're treating a prop firm, right? It's not your car. What do you care?
Yeah,
it's not real money. Well, at least some people don't treat it that way.
Yeah, I don't. It's a bad thing, man. It's definitely a bad thing. But that's one of the notes that I did, write down, like for myself personally, is having a. I don't want to say I don't have respect for prop, but having much more of a respect for prop as the opportunity that it presents itself. Because as we got to the end of last year, there was also a lot of talk about like regulation coming to that, and maybe prop is going to change this year and be different than the way we know it now. But the way we know it now is pretty awesome. So
Yeah, I don't have any like real complaints about it, other than like the drawdown stuff sometimes. But I think we've discussed that TopStep is perhaps the most fair of them that we've talked about. Although we maybe talked about just Apex and maybe Take Profit. I don't remember, but
yeah,
it seems to be the fair, in my opinion.
yeah, it's the easiest one. They have the easiest rules to follow. There's never that live trading, live trailing drawdown like Apex does. It's awesome. So
Yeah,
you have to appreciate that for the responsibility it is. And like, if he listens to this podcast, like, I hope like we're not deliberately trying to bash you. We're just trying to use your experience to shine a spotlight on kind of the bad, kind of the bad side of prop and how it's very easy to get roped into gambling strategies and not trading, just gambling. And as a young male who's I think still living at home, it's a tremendous opportunity to make a lot of money, like a lot of money if you can be patient and think strategically. And you could just as easily go from like, hey, I was living at home to in a couple years, I'm putting a nice down payment on my house. Like,
yeah,
not a lot of people are buying houses in their 20s,
yeah. And I'm sure this person is going to go a long way. And when they get to that point in their trading career, they're going to look back at this and be like, this would be the message I would tell my younger self. And so we're just trying to share that with other people, like, what not to do or what I would do differently. And this is a huge one for everybody, because a lot of people on social media might show stuff like, this one thing changed my trading. And for them, it might have been the one thing, but it's the culmination of many things over their trading career that ultimately makes them a profitable and consistent trader. And the one thing for me isn't necessarily the one thing that it was for you.
Right.
And this might not be the one thing for him. This is, just one of many things that he's going to learn and grow from.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I think, we left out a key part of this story is that was Monday night, right? I'm like 99% sure because he had built this account up like pretty fast. So I would just want to say that I would wager a guess that he had not been reviewing his trades and sort of putting the work in. And I can't stress that enough to people. Like, win or lose, you got to review those trades you take.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference. But also, so he had a bad day on Friday, and I'm pretty sure like he took a 50K account that he had built up to like nearly 20K. And into Friday, he was saying something like, every day I've started out like 2K in the hole and then had a green day. And it's like, okay, I remember saying something like, okay, that's an indication of a problem that needs to be resolved. Like, I know you have a big account balance, but like, why are you getting into like such a hole to start out with? Because then it does put you into that, I got to remake a recovery type of mindset. And then this is another thing, how if anybody else, if you're experiencing this, you are barreling down the road towards disaster. If you keep repeatedly finding yourself in this hole, and then you try to dig out of it, and you're green, you're like, okay, yeah, I made it, right? And then you do it again, and then you do it again, right? It's like the luck is going to run out there, and then you're going to find yourself in a hole that just gets deeper and deeper and deeper until you just like, oh my God, I got to call it a day before I blow this thing up. And he took an account that was like pushing 20K in profit, and he lost 12 on Friday. So
yeah, you hate to hear it.
Yeah, it's terrible, right? And so like, I don't know what happened on like Monday, if he traded like during on that partial day, but then, when he reported like late Monday night that he was up $3,000, like he had a lot of profits like left in that account, or should have. And so he didn't just lose the $3,000 to blow the account. He lost a substantially more amount of profit too. And
yeah, it was probably about 10 grand in total.
Yeah. So hate to see it. As hard as it is to secure profits, hate to see it. And
yeah, for sure.
And what it makes me think of too is how, do you know how we've had a lot of traders over the years say that they want to really build up these accounts, like specifically with Apex, they really want to build up their account balance to be able to scalp with size.
Yeah.
And for what reason?
Like, yeah, because if you are already just making killer trades with your normal size, then why are you going to increase the size for smaller profit and also increase your risk?
Exactly. And so a sudden, pullback against you with bigger size is going to be substantially more damaging. It's going to be harder to sit through because you're going to watch, like, there's just all of a sudden this mental aspect that you weren't prepared for. You know, I was trading 2 cons, now I'm trading 5, and you know, what was a 10 point, you know, $400 pullback is now $1,000 pullback, and oh my god, I've just lost $1,000 in this trade. Now I'm down 1,100. Oh shoot, I got to get out. And then you see it reverse, and you chase, and it comes back down and stops you again. It happens.
Yeah,
it happens, right?
Well, yeah, and then going back to your comment about digging yourself out of the hole, like if you're always starting red and you're having to dig out. In this person's scenario, we know that he was sizing up to dig out, and so coming back to what we're now talking about, sizing up, increasing risk. Well, he was sizing up and increasing risk to dig out, but if he would just been patient, waited for an actual setup, like we don't know, like the first trades that he's losing on, we don't know what those setups were, or if in his mind he even has a setup, if it's just intuition or whatever. But yeah, he's doing improper size, so if he can just be patient, and I'm not saying that we're all going to start out the day green on our first trade,
no,
but
of course.
he's got to pull the reins in somehow and work on, okay, maybe I need to take a timeout after this trade, and whatever that time, 5, 10, 15, whatever that's going to be, and then I need to just like regroup, rather than be like, no, I got to get it back, because you know, we've been there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've blown accounts before too, doing silly things or taking a trade, you know, mostly out of emotion that I thought looked good, but you know, that's the problem with emotions, is that it blinds you to the information that you don't want to see, right? So if you become overly fixated on that P&L, you're not going to get a clear look at the chart. You're not going to get a clear look at the risk. You know, everything is not going to be right. But I mean, the risk control isn't really there either. When I think there was comments made about holding, you know, onto 5 cons being down over 50 points. Like that's over a $5,500 or it was like a $5,400 or $5,600 loss on a single trade. Like,
yeah,
you know,
that's bonkers. It's too much.
Way too much. And then the worst part about it was like looking at the time of the trade and being like, oh my gosh, and it went down another 10 points from there, and then it completely reversed and went super in profit. So it was just like the worst left side of the V type of trade, you know. And no two trades are alike. Like you have to be able to identify what you want to risk on that. And there's times to push the gas, and there's times to, you know, ease up and just like take it slow, or just take it light and secure a modest amount of profit. But sometimes when we're in a trend and it's running, like let it run, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole, I didn't realize the size of the candles. That's kind of scary, and it actually just reminds you of how insane the money can be in the stock market, and that's something you have to be aware of. Like when I'm in a trade, and like, or not necessarily when I'm in a trade, but like when I'm setting up my screens, like if I don't have my charts stretched out like in a similar way every day, and let's say I reset one, then my perspective on the price action can be skewed, because I'm not necessarily always looking at where the price is. I'm just looking at the candles. Right. But if you're not properly, I hate to say it, but if you're not stretched right, if your screen isn't configured properly, bro, then your perspective is off, and so you know what you thought might have been, you know, 15 points, it was 100 points. You're like, oh my gosh, what did I just get myself into? Yeah. So it's one of those things where you have to have your own checklist of like, all right, am I on the right ticker? Is my risk settings turned on? Whatever they are, but like you got to go through that pre-flight checklist.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And it was that was definitely a crazy move, right? I don't even remember what caused it. I'm sure there's probably like tariff news or something or whatever, and we may experience that again in the future. And that's why this is such a relevant topic. Is you got to just be able to, you know, assess the chart, assess your risk, and trade with a clear head. And if you're not, one of the best features in TopStep is the lockout function. Use the lockout function. Go cool off for 30. For sure. Just hit lockout for 30 minutes and go get away from the screen. You know? Yeah, for sure. Like if the tools are there, let's use them. Like if you don't have the mental, well, in this situation, that does require mental discipline to walk away because it's a temporary.
versus the auto liquidate. But maybe he should be using the auto liquidate too. Auto liquidate and block for this max day personal daily loss.
Yeah, that's another great tool too. And
Mm-hmm.
and if we think about it, right, especially when he was up for the day, had he turned something like that on, the auto liquidate and block, it would have been great. But Globex is a tough time to trade too. It's like, I get it, because it's like you're walking through the casino and blackjack is your favorite game, and and every table is suddenly blackjack and nobody's playing. You're just like, oh, I could go here, I can go there. It's like, just because the charts are moving doesn't mean you need to click buttons. Like, go to bed.
Yeah, for sure. Or just trade it in sim and be like, all right, well, this is what I would have done, because if if it was a good setup and it was profit, even if it's on simulation, then it's like, okay, that's gonna positively reinforce that this is a setup I can trade in the future.
Exactly, and then you can screenshot that trade, log that trade, describe the trade thesis, where your entry was it ideal, where you took profit, was that ideal, yes or no, and why, and kind of turn it into a homework assignment that is productive and conducive to long-term success.
Absolutely.
I think, just by and large, we were talking about this one individual. There's another individual that I've been chatting with off and on, and he's struggling lately, and I think it's a mental thing, unfortunately. But just like blowing accounts, right? Like getting an account, blowing a funded in like 2-3 days, getting another one, blowing it in 2-3 days, and this has kind of been going on for a couple of weeks. I haven't spoken about this individual before, but it's just kind of like what's going on? Like, do you need a break? Are you studying? Like, where are you at? And lo and behold, no, I haven't been reviewing any of my trades, and it's just like, well,
yeah, that's the same thing we talked about last week. Come on, guys, like, put in the work. The more effort you put in is going to reap the greater reward. And if you're not putting in any effort, then why do you expect there to be any reward?
Yeah, for sure. And I feel for everybody, like, having a different situation. I'm not naive to that. I know you don't have kids. You got your dogs. I got my dogs, our two faithful viewers back there. But like, my kids they're growing up, right? So, one's in college, one's in high school, and I do have more free time than maybe other people do. And I just try to like invest it in the charts. But if you can't, we probably ought to devote, I think, a full podcast onto like efficient studying and just trying to do, the hard things efficiently. But you got to do it. You have to take that time away from like live market and review what you're doing, review what you've done, and try to figure out how you can do better. Right? It's like I think I mentioned it in the first podcast. I can't remember, but there's always 3 things that a trader needs to do, right? And it's win more on your winners, lose less on your losers, and find more winning trade ideas. And you're not going to do any of that if you're not reviewing.
Yeah, for sure. And we should even put together like a reading list too. Like Atomic Habits was a really great one.
Yeah.
You liked Ryan Holiday. You liked a lot.
Yeah. So, Ego is the Enemy was like probably the top book that I read from him. And back to those like scalpers who they're like, oh, I want to be able to scalp with size. That is 100% your ego talking. Like, you don't need to scalp with size in order to make good money. Like, you can repeatedly scalp with one con, and it goes back to that one con challenge that Maple and I are running. That's doing great. I took like a $1,300 payout off that account, and then took one. I only ended up taking, I think, 1 or 2 other trades this week. I think it was I think it was only 1. After the payout got approved, I took 1 more trade this week, and it was a 15-point winner, so another $300. 1 con, 1 trade, and just
that's great.
Just slowly start stacking it up, and it's like that's good money.
Yeah, because also, what are these people considering a scalp too? Is it now 5 points or 10 points? So, I mean, it's going to be different for everybody, but I don't like. I'm not trying to disrespect the scalper mindset,
Yeah.
But for me, it just seems easier to just do the one and done, and call it a day.
Yeah, and I mean, scalping on NQ is a little rough at times.
Yeah, for sure. because we know that the average candle can sometimes be 10 to 15, maybe even 20 points sometimes, depending on the time of day.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep, for sure. If you look at, for like anybody watching, if you look at what midday on the 24th, we were sort of inching our way up, and then all of a sudden it was just down.
Have you looked at the market this today, by the way?
Yeah, we gapped down, right?
Dude, we dumped huge. Yeah, we're down almost 300 points.
No, we aren't.
Yeah, we closed at like 907, and we're now at 588. The low was 556-ish.
Oh my god, dude.
So yeah, we're making moves tonight.
Huge.
And huge. The hugest. The trades are huge. The profit's tremendous. Take profit, folks. But look at the 2-minute EMAs though, man. Those are busting. Like after it finally settled down a little bit, looking really solid.
Yeah, it really is. This is even like right here. It looks like it could be just a good spot to fall back off towards the low of day. This is wild, man.
Yeah. Damn, it's picking up. Like the candles aren't slow right now.
Nope. Yeah. Again, the market is open, and I'm just taking a peek at it, but I'm not jumping in, folks. It's I've been up too long to try to risk this, and it's hey, it ain't worth it.
Hey, that's actually a good point. Like, also, depending on what your sleep schedule is, if you're in a trade, you're going to want to stay up to manage that trade, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then it's like, what point are you going to, like, kind of put your mental and, like, physical health at a detriment because you're trying to manage a trade rather than getting good night's sleep and just being ready for the next day?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's another thing. This is like, we have office hours for a reason, and then we have personal time for a reason. And if you're like at the office 24/7, that's not good for you.
No, it's not. I mean, you got to have that balance as well and be present. It's Sunday night, maybe you're doing stuff with your family, whatever, but just be present. We're supposed to be present and trade. Again, with the studying, right? If you're doing the majority of your trading during the New York session after the bell rings, right? So like between 9:30 and 4, or even for some people, a lot of people should wait until after that initial 30-minute, orb is at the opening range, or the first hour, which is the initial balance for institutions. A lot of people should wait for that. So if you're waiting to consistently trade between 10 and 10:30 a.m., like your stats for that time frame, you're not just gonna suddenly take a trade at 8:30 Eastern time on a Sunday night. Like you don't have that time frame even back tested. The price action is thinner. There's less participants. It wouldn't take anything to all of a sudden turn around and shoot up 30 points against you, and you're just kind of like, what do I do?
We've seen so many times in Globex where it's like, oh, it looks like we're gonna do this and that, but then suddenly it's like the pivots don't even freaking matter in Globex.
No.
It's like, okay.
Yep.
So it's like its own Twilight Zone when it comes to trading, because what you think might happen or should happen, I mean, right now it looks pretty clean, but that's because we're just selling off, and I think people are readjusting their positions. But it's not consistent for sure. Yeah,
it's definitely not consistent. And I think that I have to wonder too, like, this is like, what are we setting up for here overall in the market? Kind of different topic than risk and trading, but we have FOMC this week. We've got some big earnings this week, and there's a lot of news as well about like China's AI. I think. Yeah. Gosh, I can't remember.
Oh yeah, I had just heard about that. Something.
Shoot, dude. I had it lined up to talk about, and then my X page refreshed, and so now I lost. DeepSeek. Yeah. That's interesting. I actually just watched something about that, but maybe I'll add my 2 cents after you talk about what you know. No, yeah, I don't know a whole lot other than China, because they've been, I guess, like kind of had a restriction on the NVIDIA chips, has been forced to innovate and do their own thing. And well, it seems like they're doing something a whole lot cheaper and just as good as NVIDIA. So that's I think that's gonna change the game a lot, and depending on what goes on, and like there's trade tariff talks and all this type of stuff, like it would be kind of wild to see us say, hey China, why don't you send us some of those chips? And suddenly Nvidia goes from like the top dog, that number one, because I think they're number one on the market cap, to like pulling an SMCI.
Yeah. So here's the thing, and I'm going to give credit where credit's due. The traveling trader on YouTube, yeah, he was actually talking about it today, so that's the only reason I really know what I know. And this is based on what he was sharing.
Okay.
But the article that was put out, I guess, was saying that they have kind of surpassed what we have with OpenAI, Google, and Meta's versions of their AI stuff using NVIDIA's older H800 chips.
Okay.
Which are, I think, roughly half the performance of the currently H100.
Okay.
And so we know that the H100s are trade restricted. And the thing that is maybe over sensationalized in the news is that China has made this leap forward, but they're kind of discounting the fact that OpenAI is open. Well, actually, they're going closed source now, but it was open. There's a lot of AI models that are open source. So it's not necessarily that China has just like done this from scratch. They're certainly working off the backs of all these other technologies that have been around for a little while. And so there's two potential thoughts that come out of this. It's like, okay, if they really did use the less performant chips to train these models in, I don't remember how, it was a really short amount of time that they used to train them. But if they really did use these lower performant chips, then why can't the US also improve their efficiency to work on a lesser cost chip, right? Mm-hmm. And so does that mean that suddenly NVIDIA is not going to be worth as much because they're like, oh, well, I don't need to buy the latest chip, I can just buy the old ones.
Right. Yeah.
And then the other thing that he mentioned was that there was somebody else interviewed on, I think, CNBC, mm-hmm. and he was the CEO, I think he was the CEO of a US-based mm-hmm. AI type of technology. And he alleged that China's probably got 50 to 100,000 of these actual H1 banned chips. And so maybe they're not being, they can't talk about them, right? Because they're trade banned.
Right.
So maybe there's some deception there too. I don't know. It's going to be interesting as we learn more about this, but the AI space is really, really fascinating to me because in the past, AI was like this blanket term that everybody thought was like what people think AI is when they watch a movie or something. But really, right. It was just an algorithm. It was an if this then that. But only up until the last 4 years has it truly evolved into something that is it's closer to what we think AI is. It's actually kind of learning stuff, even though we're providing the information, but it's able to do stuff that we hadn't thought possible before.
Yeah, it seems like, and I looked at I was listening to you, but I did pull up the charts here. I see Tesla's at a big gap down, but also Nvidia gap down to the 135. So it's like a $7 gap down, which is obviously going to put more downward pressure on the NASDAQ with their weighting. Actually, I wonder too, Apple's at 220. Yeah, holy smokes.
Dude, if we had just and I'm not saying Chase, but when we were looking at this NQ chart, we had a decent, depending on when you were looking at it, we had a decent entry close to those 9-minute EMAs, less than 10 points risk, and we're already down. Yeah, another 50 points almost.
Holy, dude, you're right, because when I saw it, it was at 588. We're at 534.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes. See, this is the type of stuff, though, that we're coming full circle in here. You got to be wary about it. You can't be like, oh, we just dropped another 50 points. Look,
it's not always going to be 50 points.
Yeah, we're not going to zero. If you want to see about chasing a dump will do, look back at August 5th of 2024. That sucker dumped, and then it was right back up. So.
Oh yeah, that was the whole Chinese lending thing, right?
The carry trade unraveling.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Was that what it was? Yeah.
Yeah, it was well, you know what? I'm not going to bastardize and explain it in a way because I don't fully understand it. But it's a whole currency exchange rate sort of thing with interest and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think they called it the carry trade, which I'm not familiar with that either. But getting involved in these complex things, we're just small time right now.
Yeah,
but
yeah, for sure.
But it will be interesting to see what happens with the whole Chinese AI and Nvidia and all that stuff too, for sure. It's kind of crazy because like right now a lot of it seems like advanced learning. Like it learns things pretty quick, and you ask it questions and you get some pretty reliable answers. But like, yeah, when it gets to the point of like, I don't think you should do this, Joe, because of this information, I'm gonna be like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I tell my kids when you ask Alexa or Siri for an answer, you say thank you when you're done.
Yeah. And it's funny because like, not that I'm thinking of it that way, but like I do. Like I'll just say thanks. Yeah. And when I'm using OpenAI or whatever, like I don't know, that just doesn't take much effort to say thanks, right?
Yeah, you just want to make sure you stay on the good side of this, man. They're gonna remember. They're gonna be like, "Hey, Joe was always kind. He said thank you.
Yeah.
Some of these other fools out there.
Well, while we're on the Nvidia topic, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, we talked about Wall Street bets a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you hear about this person that put their life savings into Nvidia?
Another one?
I don't know if it's another one, but so this is on Benzinga. I guess it was in 2018, and he used margin. I think it was 100,000 that he put in on Nvidia, and he used 3 times leverage.
Wow.
And he got margin called, and so he made nothing. He lost it all.
Oh,
but if he had just put the 100,000 flat, no margin, and just buy and hold, he would have had. I think it would have said $6 million. I think I've already lost it, but like it was a stupid amount of profit.
No, it doesn't.
And
are you sure it's not 6 billion with a B? I feel like 100,000.
6.6 million. It says their original 100,000 pounds would now be worth 6.6 million if they had just purchased and kept Nvidia stock without using any leverage.
Huh.
So, but still, 100,000 to 6.6 million. If he didn't oversize, well, not, I don't know if that's necessarily oversizing, but like he used leverage. So I in a way that's in a sense that's size, but it's like we don't want to be using margin calls. You don't want to get margin called when you're putting your life savings.
Yeah, it's like, hold on, margin's calling.
Yeah,
throw the phone in the fire.
And you know what? Whoever called the margin, they not only did they get 100,000, but they might have been like, this is a good position, and they might have kept some of that, right? Because it's free for them.
Oh, damn, dude, that's so disheartening. Like when you think about those situations, but let's be realistic here, though. If you were in that position and you put $100,000 into a stock, right? Mm-hmm. How high would it go up before you'd pull your initial $100,000 out? Because I could because I'd be watching that probably every day, like what it do. And I would just be like seeing, like you see those little blips, like 102, 98, 103, 97, maybe it goes 90, and it just kind of like blipping around. So like when it gets to 200, like, are you like, let me pull 10K out? Are you just like, really like, I'm going to let it ride? Like, I mean, because that's a slow grinder, because you said 2018, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it was a slow grinder back then. The explosive growth has been like really in the last like 2 years, right?
Yeah, and it's hard to say because like if you're only used to looking at a couple of shares in that position and it goes up $1, you're only up a couple of bucks based on your size.
Yeah.
But then when you have $100,000 worth, for me anyway, it's hard to. Like every penny is worth so much more. Every penny the stock moves is just that much more. And is your mind sane enough to handle those kinds of swings? So I don't know how much I'd be able to hold, like, or how long I'd be able to hold, where I would take profit, how much I would take profit. Like the trader in me now would be like, okay, well, if I suddenly doubled my profit, I'd at least take half, so it's free.
Yeah.
But that's a tough one, man.
I once had this conversation with somebody who is like not an avid trader, and they apparently had and they sent me a picture of their wallet. So there was a crypto wallet. I knew that they were legit. So they had originally put like 6K into SHIB coin, and like near the peak, that 6K had turned into like 200. And
oh wow.
And I was just like, dude, this thing has had like parabolic growth. And if you go back and look at the charts from this time frame, where it was probably like late 2020s ish era, maybe late 21. I can't remember exactly when, but you would see it on the chart. It's just all of a sudden it's just this rocket ship, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, this has got to come down. Like this, like I know people say that, and then it's like, what's high can always go higher. Like I'm like, yes, I understand that, folks. If you're watching this, like, yes, I get that, but like logically speaking, you realize at a certain point it's gonna turn, and when it turns, it will turn hard against you. And crypto's 24/7. So you could go to bed. You could go to bed up 200 grand and wake up 75. Like it could happen. So I was just trying like any way under the sun to just try to tell him, like, take out double your initial investment. Like lock up that 12K. Put that, diversify, put that in somewhere else. And because he had pretty much like put like 6K is all I've got in this one coin.
Oh, okay.
And needless to say, he flat out refused. He even said some nasty things like, if I miss out on like truly insane money, I'd rather hang myself. And I was just like, dude, that's horrible to say. Like, there's more to life than money. Like you're already up 6K to 200. Like, what's wrong with you? And needless to say, this person and I don't speak anymore because we just have we're just so far apart on the spectrum here of this. But you go look at the SHIB chart. I don't know if he's still holding or not, but anybody who wants to just go check it out, you would see it peaked, it came way down, it hasn't been up that high. I was trying to get the dude to trim some at the top. It didn't work, but that's how people's mindsets work.
Yeah, it's sad to hear his mind frame when making that comment. It's like he's putting everything in. So obviously he's got some other stuff going on where he's not happy with his life, and he feels like this is going to fix it for him. But trading, it's going to give you a little high here and there, but it's not going to fix your problems.
No, for sure it's not. I mean, turning 6 into 200K is 6K into 200K is a pretty amazing accomplishment.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the thing with crypto too. I think it's like it really strokes that sort of like greed and ego side of individuals because it happens so fast that you don't realize it, and you're like, how much more has this got? Like, I'm gonna squeeze this for all it's worth, and it's like, this might be it,
Yeah, and we just saw this crazy stuff happening with Trump coin, Melania coin, and all this stuff, other stuff that's going on with all these meme coins, and it's it's really fascinating. Coke, not a sponsor.
Yeah, not a sponsor yet, but I do love some DC. All right, so let me ask you this hypothetical situation I was asking my wife last night at dinner.
Okay.
So you're on vacation with your wife in Las Vegas. You can't sleep in the middle of the night, right? She's asleep. You go downstairs. You start playing game of your choice.
Okay.
You take maybe $1,000 that you had set aside to do some gambling with, and you slowly just keep like you're winning. And you're winning a lot of hands, whether you're playing like roulette or blackjack, whatever. You're just winning a lot. And let's just say assume that you're at like a no limit table, right? And so you just keep winning, and you're like finally you just kind of reach a point where you're like okay, you know what? I'm gonna double down on this trade. You win, and you just keep going, and you get to a point where you're at $1 million.
Yeah.
And you're like, F it, I'm going to let it ride. And you lose. Did you lose $1 million or did you lose 1,000? And what
Bro,
do you
lost $1 million?
And what do you tell your wife though?
You don't tell her shit, bro. Well, first of all, okay, you tell her you lost 1,000, but you don't tell her the rest. You just say, "Oh, yeah, I lost it in the first few hands, and then I decided to go for a little walk, and then I came back later."
Oh, geez. I know it's a funny hypothetical story. I couldn't see myself doing that because I think at a certain point, if I was just like up fat like that, I'd be like, all right, well, here's my initial 1,000, put that in my pocket. Now I've doubled it, 2,000's in my pocket. I've got double locked. And every time I win, I would just be moving a little bit to my pocket and just watching my pocket swell. Like,
yeah, for sure. The trader in us, we would be smart about it. Yeah, we would be raising our trailing stop, so to speak.
Yeah, so to speak, right? And then it's like, all right, well, when the chips on the table run out, I'm still out and I'm still up, and it'll be at least then I feel like that's like a respectable story to go home and tell her, or go back to the room and tell her, right? But
yeah,
damn. I can't remember where I saw that.
Oh, that was that like a reel or was just a story that you came across?
I came across it somewhere. It was just like a kind of like a hypothetical. And then I think the premise of it was, how much did you lose? And like I asked you, and what do you tell your wife?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. If that happened and I wasn't smart about it, then eventually I would confess, but it wouldn't be like until we got home, bro.
Yeah.
Because that's gonna kill the vacation right there.
For sure. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, rewind the clip about 30 seconds and notice the sort of Freudian slip as Robbie touches his wedding band.
Yep.
He's thinking about his wife. He's thinking like, oh no, what would I tell her? What would I do? Yeah. That'd be rough for sure. That would definitely be rough. But that's the whole point. Like, I think we've come full circle on this here, right? With like trading prop, whether you get lucky or not, like you gotta lock some in. You gotta be smart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Profits come and go, and you gotta lock it. And even Mark Douglas talks about it, right? Like, what's his phrase? He says, and I pay myself as the market allows. Like that's the whole point. Pay yourself. And even whether it's not prop, you got folks in options trading accounts, regular trading accounts, and they put a little bit of money in, and that grows substantially, and then they never take any out and pay themselves. Like, pay yourself. The worst thing you can do too is if you never pay yourself or you never lock up any profits at the end, when the year ends, your broker is going to like finalize your year, and if you're up fat and you lose it in January, which is like typically kind of a slow month, choppy, historically speaking, you lose a lot of that money in January. You're still on the hook for the tax bill, folks. Like, that's not good.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Do you remember I told you I was full port AMD?
Yes.
Yeah, so I started my account and I was trading AMD from 2017. My initial position was 200 shares from like $1.50 that I had just been holding.
Oh my gosh.
But I added 5K to that.
Oh.
And this was in 2017. And I would full port the whole, like I'd buy all or none because I was annoyed about commissions. It was $7 per trade. Okay. So it was all or none, and I would buy and I would flip it, and buy and flip it, and I went from the 10s, low teens to the 30s.
Wow.
And I never paid myself.
Oh no.
So I paid the taxes on that, but I blew it.
That sucks, man. And of course,
but hard lesson learned, right?
Yeah, and of course, like, hindsight's always 20/20, and you could never have known that AMD would have had the explosive growth that it had. But imagine if you held even a few of those shares from, 100 of those shares from the $1.50 range or whatever.
Yeah, and that's one thing I do regret is not holding at least one of everything that I've traded, because there's been a lot of weird, random things I've traded over the years, and especially because I was a huge follower of Zach Morris back in the day. But a lot of things went to zero. A lot of things had some fun returns overnight. And over the weeks or whatever. But yeah, it's just like, I mean, I can go back and look through my 1099s and figure out what those were if I really, really want to do it. I don't care that much.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like it's a bad trip down memory lane, when you're doing it that way. But it's not a totally wasted trip, right? Because it does reinforce that lesson of paying yourself. Definitely pay yourself, lock some of those profits in, and set some money aside for taxes. It was really the big thing, even if but it's trading stuff and the things that we look at now, there could be some things that are like crazy buy opportunities that we don't recognize it now, and in 10 years we're still talking and we're just like, dude, you remember in 2024 when AMD was only like $100 a share, and now it's, maybe it's 1,500. Not financial advice. I'm just speculating, right? But
what if it turned out to be the new Nvidia or something, right? It's some Nvidia stumbled somehow, and then AMD, they took advantage of that, and also Intel's in really shady space right now. Yeah, where they're up for. Well, it's speculated that they might get acquired.
Yep.
I don't know, what that's going to look like in the future, but yeah, they rested on their laurels for such a long time. AMD came in and ate their lunch, and so although they still have a really strong server sharehold.
Mm-hmm.
Consumer is definitely shifted to AMD. Intel's graphics division is floundering. Some people would call it a failure, but yeah, they're hemorrhaging.
Yeah, for sure. And that'd probably be a good name. Like you look at some of these like beatdown names that you think may never go anywhere, like CELH, the Celsius drinks, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like they took like a massive dive, you know. And to be honest, like that's just only on the top of my mind because I kind of like the way that chart looks. It looks like they're losing downside momentum, and maybe there's a pop coming. But yeah, that could be one that like, hey, at this point in time was like, turns out this was the buying moment, and you never know, right? That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. You got to put on the risk with reasonable size, and these Wall Street bets YOLO plays. It's like, well, how did you know?
Yeah, no, none of them knew. They just were guessing. They're gambling.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wish I had $100,000 to throw on a gamble, bro. Like, imagine having 100K.
Yeah. Yeah,
like it
that'd
was
be
pocket
interesting.
change. Yeah.
Yeah, but would you take it to the casino or would you take it to the market?
Oh no, I would put it in the market. I would put
Yeah.
it in. I would put it in something that I think was going to have some crazy growth, and I'd probably, to be honest, if it was 100K, I'd probably split it up 4 or 5 ways. You know, 20 to 25K on 4 different things. You know, and
Yeah, same.
You know, and I'd probably just look at different things. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but who knows?
Well, I think that was a pretty good episode for us.
Hell yeah!
I think we can probably go on a little bit more, but we're approaching about 50 minutes here, I think. So
yeah, I think it's probably a good idea to wrap this up. Man, I lost that little thing I was going to show everybody. So as we're like growing and doing this podcast, I can't believe I lost it. It must have fallen or something. My webcam had the little protective film on it still. Like, so I don't know if that's like, I don't know if I appear clearer to everybody today, but after the first couple episodes, I was like, yo, I'm looking at my webcam. I'm like, I think there's something on there. Why does it look blurry? And I peeled the plastic off. So.
Oh gosh, that's funny.
I'm an idiot.
You got a fitness tip to leave us off with?
Yeah. So, I'm sure a lot of people are aware that like pickleball is all the rage with older people. And there's now some conclusive studies that playing and participating in a game that uses like fine motor skills, and movement and like anything with a paddle. So ping pong, tennis, pickleball, they all seem to promote longevity, right? So as you're moving your legs and you have to, and you're moving and you're thinking about like a kind of a strategy, using your brain at the same time. And so, for anybody who's getting up there, starting to age, as you, 50s, 60s, get out there, be active, and you don't have to play. I think racquetball was another one. That's like the indoor one, right? It's like pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go the full aggressive one, but yeah, just get out there and be active, right? I know golf is really big among like the older retirees, and I'm sure that probably is a little bit to do with it, but the ball is stationary. It seemed that the study seemed to target games where and activities where the object is moving. So you're using your brain, you're trying to focus, and then you're trying to coordinate. So that lower body movement again, and that coordination is really a key factor. So get after it.
Yeah, that reminds me actually, because last week you mentioned something similar when you're talking about leg day and just being active. And that did remind me, there's been similar studies about seniors gaming, because you have your mind working full blast trying to solve problems, depending on the game, of course. And a lot of games have social interactions with like voice chat and stuff. So there's been similar studies too, where seniors can game and still maintain a lot of cognitive abilities that they might have otherwise lost, if they just turned into like a laid back consumer.
Yeah, because a lot of folks, it stinks, like, just become retired, and that seems to be a very common thing, is that like, a lot of people, they know somebody, and they're like, well, as soon as, grandpa retired, his everything declined for him, like his mental health declined, his his physical abilities declined, and it's like, yeah, because he stopped going to work, he stopped thinking, he stopped moving, and he was just always in this forward state of motion, and he came to a sudden halt, and his body's like, well, don't need your brain mass anymore, don't need your muscle mass anymore. It's just like, and it's very quick, as you age, it's, you know, the loss of that is it accelerated. So you have to work at keeping those things.
Yeah. So long story short, keep yourself busy.
Keep yourself busy. Don't skip leg day.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Man.
Well, everybody, we appreciate you for tuning in. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
That's right. See you, man.
Later.